In the spirit of not overthinking and overanalyzing, I want to show you another technique that helps you make things efficiently, quickly, and just kind of get into the groove of making stuff without needing to worry so much. So this is a Japanese technique called throwing off the hump. And I'm going to take a larger piece of clay and just show you how to make a bunch of stuff, boom, 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 right off the top, and how to cut it off. And it's a great thing if you want to make something like sake cups or little sauce bowls. And I'll do a few different things off the top and show you how to get them off successfully. I do end up going back and trimming most of these forms when they come off of the hump because it's really hard for me to get a really nice, even wire off. But you don't have to keep getting up and getting new balls of clay. You just keep going. And for me, that gets me in the zone and lets me be creative. So try it with me and see how you like it. All right, I've got not a huge piece of clay, about 3 pounds, and I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how to center it up and start making things off the top. Theoretically, you don't have to worry about getting the entire piece of clay centered, but it makes me feel a little woozy motion sickness if I've got the bottom of the thing wandering around. But if you've got a bigger piece of clay than you're comfortable centering, you can just center this little top part and go from there. So I'm going to center up a little piece of clay, just enough to make like a little tiny sake cup. So I'm going to press my finger into it. Instead of using my thumb, I'm just going to kind of keep everything steady and press my finger down, not super far. You can choose how much of this clay is going to become the pot and how much is going to stay for the next thing in the hump. And for a little sake cup, I don't need a lot of clay out here in this section. So just open down maybe just a ½ inch, and then I'm going to spread it out a little bit. And then I just make sure that that's damp and pull up a nice little wall. I want to finish the lip so it's nice at the top. And the second pull, just to make sure I've got the shape that I want, I'm going to give it a little bit more volume. Slow release. And there you have the beginnings of a sake cup anyway. I want to take my fingers around the base of it and just lightly press inward so that I sort of know where the foot's going to be. And then I am going to take a rib and refine the shape of the side. So I'm going to push out and use that rib to give it a little bit of life. So it's got a little bit of a swirl to it, and I'm happy with the shape. Not overly fussed with, just, 2 poles and a rib. Now, I've got my wood knife. That really helps to cut off level. So what I come in from the side where I want that foot to be, and I make a little groove. I don't want to cut all the way through because I don't want it to go flying off. But I make a groove, and by holding still, it's perfectly horizontal. And then the trick is take your wire, and the fishing line wires work really well for this. The metal wires are a little stiff, but this one, you just feed it into the groove and bring both of your hands on the side towards yourself. And then when you feel like you've got it in the groove properly, just pull one hand and it'll just come level right through there. And then you can pick this thing up. It's helpful if you got a board to set them on. So I'm going to grab this and I'll pick it up and bring it closer to the camera so you can kind of see. That's my cute little sake cup. The bottom isn't great. It's going to need trimmed, but the cup itself is really nice. And then I've got more clay right here. I can go again. Nobody says I have to make a whole board full of sake cups. I can. And throw another one real quick just to show you. Open down. Pull out. Make sure it's damp and pull up that nice cylinder. Like to kind of finish that lip. What I'm doing there is I'm supporting with my left hand, and then I'm putting my index finger down into the pot and creating kind of an angled lip. Double check that there's not any extra thickness down here at the bottom. No, that feels pretty good. Still coming away slowly, even though I'm working quickly. Use the rib on it. Well, first I'm gonna go ahead and neck in a little bit where that foot's gonna be. And then I'm gonna work against my fingers. Rib up the side. Another cute little cup. Come in here, make a groove. Now, it takes a little bit of practice, and if you've got good depth perception, that's great. I have been known to wire off and discover that I've got a hole in the bottom. And, you know, just put it on your pile of learning and keep going. Make the next one. You got plenty of clay. So just put it into that groove again. You can pick it up, set it aside. Now, I love eating sushi, and so I like to have a little soy sauce with my wasabi in there, and so it's nice to have some little dipping dishes. So you could make those off the hump too. Just gonna center up a little bit more clay, not a lot. This time I will use my thumb because I want to make a kind of a open, angled, sort of swooping opening. Press down, make a nice curve. And then this is just like throwing a bowl. I'm gonna pull up and out. And that's plenty of volume. Refine that shape a little bit. And dry it out. Use the rib. You have to be a little bit careful when you're using the rib not to gouge into the rest of the hump. I'm going to use a little chamois on the rim just to kind of finish off the surface of the rim. Right now it's feeling a little bit, I don't know, just a little sharp. So I want to compress it. So I'm going to take my chamois and wrap it around that edge. Just give it a little press. Slow release. And this one will want trim too, but it can have a nice little foot. So I'm going to come down below where that foot's going to live. Make my groove. Got it in the groove and just pull one hand. And as long as your fingers aren't too gooey, you can just get up under there with 4 fingers right around the base and lift it, set it onto your board. So I've got a nice little sauce bowl and 2 sake cups ready to go out for some sushi. What else? I'm gonna go a little bit bigger. If I want to have some brown rice and green tea with my sushi meal, I'll make myself a little, what's called a unomi. If you don't like brown rice and green tea, they make great little stemless wine glasses too. So I'm gonna press down in the center. This one's gonna need a little bit more clay. Make a nice little opening here. Pull up. I like these to be about maybe 4 to 6 ounces. You can make them other sizes. As you can see, I kept my hands moving really slowly with the wheel moving pretty quickly on that, and that gives me a nice smooth shape. And you can see that's sort of the shape you might expect for the top of a wine glass. It's kind of the shape that I like for these unomis. That's spelled Y-U-N-O-M-I, not 3 words. You know me. It's a Japanese word. But potters have really decided they love making these, myself included. Use the rib to give it a little bit of jazz. So I had the wheel going more slowly and I came up and kind of overwrote the information from my pull and superimposed this nice spiral shape. So I'm going to come here at the base and press in just a little bit below where that foot's going to go. And again, this is your friend for wiring these things off. If you just try to cut it with the wire, the chance of you getting it level is very, very small. But if you come in here with the wire, with the wood knife and make a groove, you at least get close, and you got a shot at getting something nice when you trim the foot on these. I have found with my own technique that if I make things that don't get trimmed off the hump, I do end up with a higher percentage of pots developing S-cracks in the bottom. But when I come back and trim a foot, I very rarely have any trouble with that. So here's my wire in the groove, pulling straight out, and get the goo off my fingertips. I'm just going to get around this one. This one I'm going to do with 2 fingers, knuckle, and 2 thumbs. Just grab that base, pick it up, set it on the board. So now I've got a whole family. I've got my brown rice green tea cup, my 2 sake cups, and a little sauce dish, and still have clay left over on the wheel. I won't bore you with any more pieces. The whole point is that you can just make and make and make and make and end up with a whole bunch of neat stuff that you can come back later and trim feet on. And you didn't have to get up and get more or even decide how big of a piece of clay you want for the project. You can just center up the amount that you need for each thing, and it can be just done, and quite enjoyable to work this way. I also love doing it for making parts. So if I was making a teapot, I might make my lid and my spout, and even if it was a Japanese side handle teapot, I would make those parts right off the top of a hump of clay too. It's particularly effective for things that are small and fiddly to pick up. I do want to show you a teapot lid just because of this little cool trick. This is going to fit nothing, and in fact it's going to just go back in the bag of clay, but I want to show it to you anyway because this is a tip that really will save you some trouble. So if you want to make a teapot lid, what you do is you open off center, and that leaves clay in the center here for a teapot knob for your lid. I'm going to squeeze it in so it's shaped more like a knob. And then I'm going to pull this kind of like a bowl. I'll do a whole video on a teapot at some point. That's one of those projects that isn't quick and dirty. It's got all kinds of parts, but that's how you throw your lid. And then what you do is you put your finger where you want the edge of the lid to kind of bend outward. You put it below there, and then you fold the clay down over your finger like that. And now you've got a lid that the body of it is down inside of your teapot so that it doesn't tip out. And let me show you this great trick for how to get it off the wheel. So the first part, we're going to come below that point where the floor is and make a little groove. Then I'm going to come 1/2 inch below that and make a second groove. And this is the key to this technique. And you can do this for all the things you make off the hump. It's just not necessary for things that you're going to trim. But if you just don't like the idea of sort of messing up the bottom of it, this technique is great. So I'm going to go in the top one first, and I'm going to feed that wire in until I got both ends towards me. Just pull one hand. And then I go below that where that other groove is, and I do the same thing. And now I've got this little disc of scrap clay that I use to lift up my lid, and later on I can just peel it off. I would not do it now, I would wait. But you can just peel it away, and you have an unmussed teapot lid that you can trim up just a little bit, and it should be great. And you didn't have to distort it by picking it up higher. So that's most of the things I know to share with you about throwing off the hump. I would just say get a piece of clay, make sure it's wedged up pretty well, and give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy it, and it's kind of nice just to get in the zone where you can make and make and make, and you don't have to interrupt yourself. You just, next thing you know, you've got a board full of nice little cups or nice little bowls, and you wonder where the time went while you were enjoying just throwing pot after pot on the wheel.